Last time I talked about this machine, over 3 million people were interested. So today I'll show you how I'm using it for even more DIY projects.
Meet the M1 Ultra from Xtool. I'll use it to cut, draw, foil emboss, and print, and laser engrave everything I need to make an upcoming holiday dinner party that I'm hosting perfect. Let me show you how. Of course, we gotta have people at our party, so I'm first going to start by making some invitations. To do this, I'll be using the inkjet module, which is super easy to load into the M1 Ultra.
So there are lots of tutorials online now that will go more in depth into this process, but basically you just put your material down, then you mark the area. And then since I'm using the ink module, I'm just gonna take this little cap off and close the lid. So now our program, and I'm using Xtool Creative Space, knows the area that we will be working with. So I'm going to click End Marking, done, and now I just bring in my files. This is just a PNG that I made in Photoshop. I got the assets for free in the public domain. I'm just gonna bring it in, set it to the size that I want, create an outline for cutting it, and then print it.
Now that it's finished printing, I'm going to switch out the inkjet module so that I can do the foil embossing and cutting. So here I'm loading in the carriage module, which already has the foil transfer tip loaded into it. And then on the left hand side here of the machine, you can see that I already had the fine point blade loaded in. When you're adding your foil onto your material, you want to make sure all the edges are taped down nice and tight. The file I'm using for this is actually a PNG, so I'm going to bring it in and I'm going to use the magic wand tool to remove the background. And actually this tool works better than most programs I've used before. I'm actually very impressed by it. After the background was removed, I created an outline and then I changed my settings for the foil embossing. I set everything to multi-module processing so that it can do everything in one go. So as soon as it was finished with the foil embossing, it went straight to cutting without me having to do anything. Here's how they turned out. I think they're super cute. I love them a lot. But of course I need a way to get them to my people, and I have awful handwriting, so I'm actually going to use the pen drawing tool to write the addresses onto my envelopes. These ended up looking way more professional than if I had handwritten it. Unfortunately, I can't show you because I don't think you guys need my address. Once the invitations were finally sent out, I decided to use the same printing and cutting process to make some menus. I've been setting the intensity for the printing to about 80 for most of the projects in this video, but I'd love to play around with it more to see the different results. For cutting the cardstock, I'm just using the recommended settings from Xtool. Then I just duplicated everything so that I can make 2 per page and let the M1 Ultra get to work. It always does this quick little test print at the beginning so that you know that all 3 colors are printing correctly. Something to know about this printer is that unlike typical at-home printers, it does not have black ink. What makes this machine impressive is the items that it can print on. But I'm sure as time goes on, Xtool will be able to improve this machine so that it has even better printing quality. Now, as I just showed in this uncut clip, once it's finished printing, it immediately picks up the cap so that the ink doesn't dry out and switches to the blade cutting all in one go, super easy. Alright, now that the menus are finished, let's print on something besides cardstock. I think it'd be fun to make some super cute napkin rings. So for this project, I'm going to switch out the base plate for the honeycomb. I'm using basswood and just locking that down to the honeycomb. I grabbed some free clip art online and I'm just going to print those at about 2 inches each. Here's the printer working in real time so you get an idea of the printing speed. When it was finished, I noticed it was a little desaturated and darker than I wanted, so for my other files, I'm going to boost the saturation and brightness right in the Xtool Creative Space. These turned out much better, and now that they're finished printing, I'm actually going to switch to the laser module. In the program, instead of using the multi-module processing mode, I'm actually using the inkjet mode and the laser module mode separately. I find this a little easier than using the prisms and the base plate, which if you had this machine you know what I'm talking about. But the reason I do this is because it's easier to lock the wood down onto the honeycomb than it is onto the prisms. And that way it's less likely for the wood to move around during the printing and cutting process. Alright, these little pendants turned out adorable. You'll see how I turn them into napkin rings later on in the video. Now I'm just using the same process to make some ornaments, and I'm going to give these out as little favors at my little dinner party. And again, the process for all of this is pretty much the same as when I was making the menus and invitations. I just brought a PNG into the program and set that to printing, and then created an outline around it that I set to cut. Now, if you're going to have a laser machine, there's of course a lot of things you want to do to stay safe, but Xtool has included some great safety features into this machine, so it's not as scary as it seems at first. This lid here is light filtering so that you don't hurt your eyes by looking at the laser, but I don't recommend that you look at the laser anyways. And before you use the machine, there's actually a safety course that you can take as well, which of course I recommend. Another big thing about using a laser machine is that you want to have proper ventilation. I currently have mine hooked up to the desktop air purifier. So here's my finished ornament, another cute project idea. My next project, I'm just going to do some simple cutting and engraving on some birchwood. So this is an adorable Christmas countdown design that I found for free under the community created assets on Design Find from Xtool. This is a great place to start if you're new to the Xtool machines so that you get an idea of how designs work, especially if you want to eventually create your own designs but it seems a little intimidating and confusing at first. I also cut out this Christmas wreath, snowflake tea light holder, and standing reindeer all from Design Find. Another material that has all kinds of options to it is heat transfer vinyl. So I think I'm going to take this and add some designs to this table runner I have. I was inspired by this Gingerbread Village table runner from Pottery Barn, but it's $139, so I figured I would just make my own, more budget-friendly version. Again, I'm just using some house designs that I found online for free, but as a reminder, it is literally illegal to steal someone's work and try and sell it, so don't do that. All the designs I'm using are only for personal use, and most of them are either from the public domain or I have the right to be able to make them. This is one of those projects where you have to mirror the image before you cut it out, and I just did that with the click of a button in the program here. I'm just going to try cutting out one snowflake first using the recommended settings that Xtool has. The recommended settings worked perfectly for this. For heat press vinyl like this, it's 2 layers and you want to only cut the top layer. So once I was sure about the settings, I went ahead and cut out the rest of the designs. So now that the vinyl is cut, we're just going to weed it out. To apply it to my table runner, I'm just using Xtool's mini heat press, which is super cute and convenient. I decided to just wing this by doing 350-degree temperature for 20 seconds, and it worked alright, I think. But if you're looking to have something that's very durable and gonna last a long time, you definitely want to double check what settings you're using, and especially pressure as well can be important if you're applying something like this. So just make sure you're following the recommended instructions for whatever material you're using. Alright, now going back to all those things we cut out, I'm going to clean them up with some isopropyl alcohol. This just kind of wipes off some of those scorch marks that get left behind from the laser. You'll want to be careful with the alcohol around anything that you printed, as the alcohol can wipe off the ink. As protection for these things that are printed, I usually use Rust-Oleum's Matte Clear Protectant Spray. So far that's worked pretty well for me. And here I just want to give you a nice close-up so that you can see how the printing does on wood. Next up, I have quite a few things to paint, so I'm just going to use this craft paint that I already have. A great option to save you time is actually to paint before you even cut these out. I just didn't do that this time for some reason, but it's something to keep in mind for your own projects. Also, for smaller, more detailed areas, acrylic markers like these work great. Alright, now that we have everything painted, I'm just going to use some Star Bond super glue to get everything put together. For my Christmas banner, I just took some white paper and glued it to some brown cardstock, and then super glued the letters to it.
So these are my napkins, and I think I'm gonna try hot glue first to make my little napkin rings.
As always, thank you so much for watching, and thank you to Xtool for sponsoring this video. If you're looking for an all-in-one crafting machine, this might be the one for you. You can find a link in the description to check it out yourself. Until next time.